From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and it's time for a position battle at the wide receiver position. And there's a lot of battles, but there's one that has been kind of, I guess, brewing that we think is actually a very big competition, and some other people think maybe not so much because they don't have any respect for one of these guys. But we got Travis Benjamin versus Richie James.
This is going to be a spicy one, so make sure you
Ding,
smash
ding, ding.
that like button right now and subscribe if you haven't already, so you are here right away as soon as the video is released for all of the position battles we got. There's a bunch of them. There's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of guys to talk about because this roster is freaking loaded with talent, and these two guys are by no means an exception to the rule, because both guys add a lot of different things to this wide receiving room, and they're definitely going to be battling it out for that potentially number 4 wide receiver slot or 5.
Yes. This is going to be a very interesting battle because they do similar things. They're built similarly. They both have kick return and punt return ability. They both have speed. They can both take it to the house. They're dynamic. The one thing where it starts getting separated is that when Travis Benjamin worked with Kyle Shanahan in Cleveland, he was better than any season that Richie James worked with Kyle Shanahan here in San Francisco. So there is at least potential as far as we've seen it happen with Travis Benjamin. We haven't been able to see this happen with Richie James. It's consistency with Richie James. He's not consistent from week to week. He kind of falls off. He has a big game, and then he disappears for weeks. And then he has a good game, and you get excited. You're like, oh, here comes Richie. And then he disappears again.
And then he gets nicked up.
Which the nick-ups happen all the time. That's a problem. I think that the way Travis Benjamin was used in Los Angeles was incorrect. They just wanted to use him to take the top off the defense. That is not something that he needs to be doing consistently. He can do it from time to time, and when that happens, they're whole shots. He can have big plays. But intermediate routes over the middle, he can still be successful. What do we talk about with Jimmy Garoppolo all the time? Where is he the most comfortable getting the ball is over the middle and intermediate routes. And now we have a guy that if you run a play action pass and this guy has a step on a defender over the middle, he can take it to the house, split the safeties, and I mean, it's no problem for him. So he can be used in a variety of different ways here in San Francisco, which he wasn't done in Los Angeles, which means he can reach his full potential. Where I don't know if I can get the same sort of thing from Richie James because I don't know what his potential is. Is his potential occasionally showing up, or can he be consistent and show up all the time?
Right. A lot of people confuse potential too with performance. They'll see one performance and think that's the guy's potential, and it's like, no, not necessarily. Because if it only happens once every blue moon, then that's what his potential is. His potential is a guy who's in the right situation, the right circumstance, he could have a big game in a big moment. And you know what? There's a role and definitely a spot for guys like that. Because you can have, especially if you have a really great wide receiving core, you can stick a guy out there knowing when we get into these types of situations, these are where he can thrive. And if we're in a lot of these types of situations, he could have a huge game. That's great. But there's a problem with that. You don't know when those are. Because you have an idea of when those moments may arise, but you can't predict when they're going to happen in a game. You can just guess.
Yeah.
And Kyle Shanahan talked about that on the Flying Coach podcast with McVay is, as an offensive coordinator, you are trying to, based on your prep work, predict and guess what a defense is doing. You don't necessarily know. There's sometimes where you have a pulse on it, right? Where you've played against a guy enough, you've watched enough film of an opponent, you know what his tendencies are, and you have a good idea of when he's going to do certain things, and you can put yourself in the right situations and the right matchups, but it's still a prediction. There's no guarantee. And that's the problem for me with Richie James, is there is no guarantee. Now, you may be sitting there, and I know Gary's sitting down there right now typing away, but there's no guarantee with Travis Benjamin either. Look, there's been more production from Travis Benjamin, even when he was with the Chargers, than there has been with Richie James. Travis Benjamin was a guy who at least once or twice a game with the Chargers was a whole shot guy that you knew was going to get a deep ball thrown to him, and he'd have an opportunity to make a play. Sometimes he'd get overthrown, sometimes he'd get underthrown, sometimes he'd make a big catch for a huge 65-yard touchdown, but there was always going to be something from him. Him in Cleveland with Shanahan, you knew what you were getting from him.
Yeah.
Kyle knows how to scheme this guy open. He knows what he can and can't do. And in all honesty, from the things I've seen on film, especially of him in Cleveland, he's much better at getting off of press coverage than Richie James is right now. I think he's a cleaner route runner. I think he's a better intermediate route runner than Richie James is right now. And I think that's one of the more underutilized aspects of Travis Benjamin's game is the intermediate short route and the things he can do there. And that's a place where Jimmy Garoppolo thrives.
It is.
And I think this, if we're looking at what this guy is and comparing him to another guy that we've had that was a slot kind of intermediate guy that they used in that type of role, Trent Taylor. This guy's a massive upgrade over Trent Taylor. Travis Benjamin is a huge upgrade over Trent Taylor. And that's a problem for me because Richie James wasn't beating out guys like Trent Taylor when Trent Taylor was healthy in San Francisco. I think Travis Benjamin is a huge upgrade over that in that regard, in that respect, whether it's in the pass game, whether it's in the slot, whether it's deep shots, hole shots down the seam, up the sidelines, or whether that's the return game. I think he does everything slightly better, if not significantly better, than a Trent Taylor did when he was in San Francisco and healthy. And Travis Benjamin is healthy. He's not unhealthy. He didn't sit out COVID year because he was hurt. He sat out COVID year because of COVID.
Yeah.
He's got fresh legs. It's been a couple of years now since he's played in the league and hadn't had to take a beating. This isn't an old man. He's getting up there in age, but by no means is he an old man. He should be right at the peak, if not the twilight, coming up on the twilight of his career, which means he should still have plenty left in the tank. Is the speed still there? That'll be the question. Speed will be there for Richie James, but is it going to translate into consistent production? I don't buy it.
And I think Travis Benjamin's still faster than Richie James.
Fair.
I think Richie James is fast, but I don't think he's as fast as Travis Benjamin. I see Travis Benjamin also being used in all the same ways that you use Richie James. They use Richie James sparingly with ghost motions and fly sweeps and that kind of thing. But Travis Benjamin can be used the same way. So he can do everything that Richie James can do plus. Because Richie James doesn't operate in those short areas. He doesn't make those little intermediate catches. He struggles a little bit with that. A lot of times you see him wide open. That's where he makes his plays, is when he's wide open. And sometimes you have to make contested catches, and I just haven't seen him do it consistently enough. I will say that, Travis Benjamin has questions just like anyone else does on this team and this roster, but I don't fall into the trap of, he hasn't produced in 2 years, because I always like to look into what he has done with Kyle Shanahan. When we're talking about Mohamed Sanu, it's what he's done with Kyle Shanahan. Now I want to look at what this guy did with Kyle Shanahan, because a lot of times scheme fit with a player and a coach is huge. A guy might not be successful. How often have we seen a player play for one team, go to another team, struggle, come back to that team and play for that coaching staff again and be dynamic again? Because sometimes that is what's the most important thing. Players and scheme fits are a real thing, and Travis Benjamin does a very good job playing for Kyle Shanahan in this system. He has the opportunity to do a very good job this year and put him ahead of Richie James. I think this is going to be a tight battle. I give the upper hand to Travis Benjamin because I think he can do more in this offense. And another thing that might hurt Richie James is if somebody else steps up and takes over the kick return and punt return role. Yep. If they are going to give it to Brandon Ayuk, if they are going to give it to Ambry Thomas.
If Elijah Mitchell steps in and takes over.
Right. If it's going to be any one of those guys, it might be harder for Richie James because I don't think he's going to make it purely on being a receiver.
And let's be honest, too, if we're looking at run game stuff situations as well, I think Kyle Shanahan probably has a little more comfort with a guy like Benjamin than he would with a guy like Richie James. I'm not going to say Travis Benjamin is a significantly better run blocker. It's not what he's going to be used for, especially if you're a wide receiver 4. That's not what you're there for.
Yeah.
But I think he's got probably a little more faith in a guy like Benjamin. Benjamin has done it more than Richie James has. Richie James, think about that Packers game. Kyle Shanahan said, I've always known that Richie's had it in him. Where has it been?
Yeah.
And where was it afterwards?
It wasn't.
Because it disappeared immediately after that. So Richie James is just one of those guys. I don't think he's in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse by any means.
No.
But he's inching himself closer and closer to the doghouse.
Mm-hmm.
He's not moving himself away from Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. Travis Benjamin is nowhere near the doghouse. Not even close. And this isn't. I've been hard on Richie James this episode. Richie James is a very talented wideout. Let's not get it twisted, folks. Richie James' issue is just translation. The talent, the possibilities, all the things that he could do and could be. It's got to translate onto the field at some point. Because if it doesn't, you're gonna find yourself out of the league really, really quickly. And I don't want that for Richie James.
Yeah.
But that's what it's starting to. We're working towards that. A few years ago, Richie James was safely on this roster. Just a few seasons ago, safely a guy that was going to make the 53-man roster. Now, There's no safety about it. He has to try and beat out a guy like Travis Benjamin. And even if he can't, that doesn't mean he won't make the roster, but he's going to be on the back end of that wide receiver group.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's been chilling on the back end of that bubble of that into the roster, and I think he's still there. And there are hungry guys right there with him that want his spot. He's going to have to beat them out, and we'll see if he's got it in him because, once again, what happened in OTAs, Richie James is nicked up a little bit. If he can't get through training camp healthy, he will not make this roster. The talent is too much this year for him to be able to coast through. Last year, injuries happened in front of him that really helped him. But if we don't see consistent play from him in the preseason, consistent play in practice, this guy is going to see himself on the outside looking in, and one of these other guys is going to take his job. And Travis Benjamin is too good to just sit on and sleep on. I know Richie James knows he's got to play well. He has the ability to play well. Can he do it consistently? If he can do it through camp and through the preseason, he'll be on this roster. If he cannot, he won't.
Yep, and he could be a bright spot. He could be a bright spot if he can put it all together. But he's got to put it all together.
That's the truth.
There ain't nothing truer has been spoken on this podcast today than that right there. Let us know what you think about this position battle down below. Do you think it's as close as we're making it, or are you in complete agreement with us, and even more so that Travis Benjamin is the guy, James, or the inverse? We know Gary is down there right now letting you know. Richie James over Travis Benjamin all day, every day. He can't even kick return. We're blowing that out of proportion. There's a lot of different ways to have this conversation, and we want to have all of it with you right now. So let us know about it down there. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That way you're notified in here as soon as all these videos go live, which is daily at 11 a.m. and Friday's live stream, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. You want to be here for that. And also, don't forget to rep that 49ers Cutback merch. Link in the description below. You want all those cool shirts right there. You want the 49ers inspired gear. You want all of it. You want to rep the Cutback crew daily in your daily life. I know I do. I'm still waiting on my stuff to get here. I cannot wait because I'll be wearing it nonstop on the pod, 24/7, 365. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. And man, I'll tell you what, this is just one of many position battles that is going to be real tight.
Yeah, there's a lot of great position battles, and I want to know what everyone's perspective is on this. Travis Benjamin against Richie James. Let us know why you think it's Travis Benjamin or why you think it's Richie James, and just give us some good points. I do want to have a conversation about it because it is an interesting conversation, an interesting topic, because these guys are closer than people think. They do similar things. It's a natural battle in camp, and I don't think there might not be a possibility for both of them to make the roster. So it is a good one to have, and I'll be listening to these points. If they're fair, then I will definitely re-examine my approach to everything. Once again, eye test for me is something that I go on, and right now I just believe Travis Benjamin has the heads up, but everything could change. Richie James could prove me wrong. I hope he does. I hope every one of these guys play out of their mind so we have the best possible team we can get.
And we want the best 53, right? We want the best 53 out there because the best 53 is going to get us that much closer to a Super Bowl and securing that quest for 6, and then we can move on, right, for the whatever it is for 7. We'll come up with something.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of rhyme out there.
Something. But for now, quest for 6, we're on it. These position battles are going to help determine it. It's exciting times for San Francisco. I can't wait for these battles to start.
Me either. I can't wait for it. Preseason get here. I want to see games right now. I'm ready.
Absolutely. 100%. 49ers fans, though, until next time, you stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.